merged into that with some people, that tribe. So they took on the basic genetic traits of that overall population. Hence, there are distinct markers for these separate tribes in their DNA, the genetics. Again, there's a lot of things that fall into this. Beginning with the first, what did you begin with, an original tribe, or did you separate? And from that separation, people separated more, and then over thousands of years, people try to keep that separated form. In other words, we don't want to look like you, so we'll just keep doing our own things, and that created a lot of sickness. Royalties tried to do that same thing with they're having incest, because they're like, oh, well, we're better than you, or we're the supreme race or the supreme bloodline. So instead of sharing it and growing that bloodline, that they would be selfish with it, and again, doing it the point by point the wrong way, which is a bad flow, end up having a stagnant gene pool, which creates abnormalities in the offspring, and maybe even to the connection to the above. And so, you have these people that are looking more deformed because, you're no longer keeping the Adam gene pool alive, and which keeps you stronger. You're actually separating it. And then even with animals, if you just keep using the same gene pool with a pure pedigree, you're going to find out that they have a lot of medical problems, and they may even get sick and die because the gene pool is just being less and less. So even with that, you'll see that there's different sizes, and even with these different dogs, but they're still compatible through the genes, so they can still intermingle with one another and become healthier, as opposed to the stagnant gene pool. Even among the different humans and tribes, you will see. Again, like I said, even in Africa, you will have different hair, different eyes, and even the color of their skins. Now, there's a chocolate brown, there's a light chocolate brown, and there's a lighter chocolate brown. It's like a tan look. Of course, there's always the albino. And if you really go deep into this, you'll find out that there are indeed people with lighter skin that do have a dark baby, and there's people who are, ebony baby, or people with dark skin that have an albino baby. So it works both ways. Although some people say, oh no, that this is not, and then they give you some erroneous reasons why it doesn't happen when it does happen, and especially before DNA. So you got two people in Germany, they have a baby, and the baby comes out, an ebony baby, and it's like surprise, and before DNA he'd be like, shit, I said, this woman cheating on me, and then she's probably thinking, well, he's cheating on it's hard for the woman because she knows she didn't cheat on this guy, and meanwhile the baby's ebony, and then each one's probably pointing at each other saying, well, you might not be 100% ivory color or 100% lighter skin, when in reality is that they always had the ability to create a darker skin or a lighter skin. Not that themselves, but the orchestration of our ability to grow with one another, to create this higher connection between one another, as opposed to a lower connection just to separate. A lot of times right now, especially, it's in behavior and education. Meaning that at one point, people with lighter skin had learned how to use writing in order to attain more knowledge, and as opposed to some other ebony groups in which they had only used memory or word of mouth. But when you write, it gives your memory more power to quickly absorb and remember things on demand, as opposed to someone who's just using memory, which can falter by feeling upset or sickly or elderly, or all these other factors that can change the actual total understanding of the story or the knowledge that one is trying to teach the younger generation in order to become better, smarter, and stronger. So they began to separate, and some tribes were to merge in that tribe, and they took on the basic genetic traits of the overall population. Hence, you got these distinctive markers, and again, the royalty used to take a beating when they used to marry each other, like the brother and sister, and because first of all, they don't have the Adam genome. They have the portion of a portion, and then when you're mixing that portion with the portion, you're just lessening your gene pool, which creates just more medical and all kinds of problems. And they did this all the way back to the Egyptian days. And it goes a lot more further than that, because the Egyptians used to also classify them by color, skin color, their size, their hair colors, and then they was showing how far back that went. But that went further than that, especially when the original tribe started having problems with one another, and it started separating from itself, and then from that, the continents started separating from itself, and it goes deeper than that, because some tribes, especially some of the early ebony tribes, would travel all over the world, and then have all this old, which becomes then newer knowledge if one tribe forgets, but the other tribe somehow picks it up, and then they'll claim, well, this is our knowledge, when in reality they just got it from the last smartest tribe that was at that particular time. Which then leaves some people thinking that they're less than, or they're ignorant, when in reality is that they're a lot smarter, but they're so connected to the lower energy, or this lower vibration, that they are not able to restore their greatness due to the belief structure or the foundation of their innermost being before they become express themselves in physical form. So they stagnate their gene pool. A lot of times that's what happens. And again, there's not one tribe that says, oh, this is the one African tribe. No. Many African tribes, many different colors, all in Africa. They're all Africans, and real, like ancient Africans. Up to, of course, they don't go back all the way to the original. Although some tribes do, but I've heard that they broke up that tribe due to that fact. But again, this isn't my particular field. I'm going through. By the time you finish the human structure, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It's hard to describe because it's big. So, in any case, you'll see all these different colors and languages. And, of course, the languages are easy enough to make because, especially if they have trouble with another tribe. They was like, oh, forget this guy. Let's just start another language. So they also began to divide and separate people through eyes. Some people, they get all these erroneous beliefs. Oh, well, this eye color is better. No, that eye color is better. So some people would mate only because of eyes, or mate only because of these prejudicial belief structures that they were erroneously implanted while they were young. And a lot of people still do this to this day. They'll say, oh, because he's lighter skinned, he's evil, or because he's darker skinned, he's evil. And some of them teach that from when they're babies, and they're further dividing themselves into this stagnating of the gene pool. So some of them up to this day still have sex and children with their own families, making it worse upon themselves. Instead of saying, you know what, we can't have sex with our own family. That's just going to hurt our rest of our family. Why don't you go find somebody from that tribe over there, find a nice guy, have a couple babies. You know your gene pool is going to be good, and you're going to instruct them with the right education, and you can continue on and have a great overall outcome into your ancestors. And of course, there's a lot of factors that work as well. You know, environment, it does have a factor in our overall outcome. Of course, the sun can and will make us darker, and then that does, in fact, go into our gene pool. It's registered in our genes, in our DNA. And so some of these tribes got bigger and bigger, some got smaller and smaller, and of course the diet, you can see that if you have a baby with a good diet, he'll probably grow up big and strong. And imagine if you have that diet continue on, the babies will keep and becoming bigger and stronger. But some tribes will have a lack of food, so they don't grow to the rate and the size they ought to, and so you have smaller and shorter tribes again. And then some of them are bigger, and some of them have darker skin, some of them have lighter skin, some of them have lighter eyes, some of them have darker eyes. But don't be ignorant of that these, yes, indeed, are factors, and that can and will affect our overall look, our overall health, our overall size, and that creates the overall genetic pool from a particular tribe that create what some people call a race. When it's not a race, it's a tribe. All of this might have gone without notice until people have began to test people's DNA strands and have discovered that that very tiny tribe I was discussing had all the characteristics, or DNA of every human, that they were in like the middle of between the lightest and the darkest, with every possible color, eye, and hair, and their shape. And they could easily go from one shade of melanin to another shape by simply pairing people. Like some people, one woman might be an ebony woman who's tired of being an ebony woman and just decides to go with a lighter skinned man, and tells their children, "Well, just go with lighter skinned men," and this way they'll sort themselves out of being light. Or someone light might want to go dark and find himself a dark man and dark babies, and saying, well, do you want to be dark for this and this, as opposed to just saying, broaden your DNA. Don't be in the same family and tribe. It's better to look outside and broaden our DNA in order to create a stronger family and tribe. And people have been doing this with animals as well for, again, thousands and thousands of years. All this stuff isn't just made up. All this stuff was orchestrated for a long time. And once you begin to unravel it, you'll see the truth of it. Not only is it truthful, but you're going to actually test this in real time and under scientific, using the scientific method. And some people say, well, it was a variety of animals at one time that there was a compatibility in order to create abnormalities, and which was the ability then to create giants or some kind of weird animals, such that we call dinosaurs. But since then, the flood or the ice age had made it impossible, if not unable to manipulate or to create this sort of creatures. And when they didn't form, when they were able to form these creatures, and after the flooding, the people were unable to, so therefore we were unable then to find the ability or capability to orchestrate such beasts. But at the same time, we still have animals that do grow large, and in some places the human population keeps them to a certain size and at bay. And who's to say if those old animals, the dinosaurs, wasn't a good source of meat probably most likely a good source of meat, not to say, or if they also followed the same principles. In other words, if you had a dinosaur and you fed him and you treated him correctly, he might end up being like a big puppy. But you gotta, again, following the procedure, these laws and principles that are already in motion that everything in this world follows. So you can have a little man who controls a big elephant by feeding him and washing him, and him and the elephant are good friends. He rides the elephant like a car. So or treats the monkey, unless you're going to disrespect the monkey, and they don't take lightly that. You piss them off at the wrong time, and you're ignorant to these understanding, and you got to pay the penalty because you're using that energy. But in any case, there are people that did that, and to this day they do that, and it's real sad when they start mixing all these animals and humans, and then trying to create some Dr. Moreau type crap. And that's nasty. And what's sad is that the ending of the Dr. Moreau, where all those animal people or whatever, I can't say I recommend it or I don't recommend that. I mean, it's wild, but people are doing that on a reel, and of course there's a lot of dead, weird things, and this is an abomination to us and everything there is. And there's some scientists that I don't get into the way they did it, because some people will be like, oh well, let's do that and see if it comes true, because they'll take the human sperm and then they'll mix it with something else. I'm not going to say what, but then they let it ferment or whatever, and then it grows to some crazy ugly beast that they have to kill. They're like, what the hell is that? But anyway, the ending of the Dr. Moreau, when they started to praise God, it just shows that even the DNA had to scream. It was just, that movie was something else. Again, I can't say if I recommend it or don't recommend it. You're better off just taking my word for it, but if you want to watch it, knock yourself out. I mean, it's kind of wild, not really recommended for children. But if you're a grown, older adult and you want to get into it, and it's the ending, but it makes you wonder. It makes you wonder a lot about what's really going on and what's really being suppressed, and why would somebody even want to do that? And that's because probably they're into the unknowledge, so they're doing things that it's destructive. And a lot of people stop that very same thing, not because they were told by somebody else, but because when they see it with their own eyes, they was like, no, only God can do that. I'm not going to say what famous scientist say. It's up to you. You do your own studies. Let's just say that it's been tried lots of times, a lot of different ways, and nobody's keeping. Some people are keeping track, but this is like the underground scientific experiments that is either illegal or a blasphemy against God and man and creatures and everything that exists. But anyway, Even here in America, there's so many people that are claimed to be or are branded as colored or African American, or they're branded. Technically, I mean, if you really want to break it down, we all originated from Africa, or at least the one main continent.